You're listening to the Slavic Literature Pod, your shelf help guide to all things Slavic.
I'm Matt Garasimovich, PhD candidate at Northwestern University, studying Russian literature and film.
And I'm Cameron Lalana, a literature enthusiast. We're two friends who met studying in Russia. We like talking about books so much that we made it into a podcast.
This week, you're joining us in the office for Office Hours. It's a break from our normal content where we're going to be discussing things we read outside the show, delve deep into strange literary subcultures, and answer any listener questions that we have. We hope you'll learn something along the way, but if not, you'll at least be getting some extra credit.
And trust me, some of you need it.
Some of you desperately need it.
If you're interested in supporting us, you can head on over to our website, slaviclitpod.com, for ways to do that. Matt,
Do you think it's good to insult the audience directly before asking for money?
Yeah, well, it's a new strategy I'm working on.
Okay.
I'm learning about it from, actually, Jordan Peterson Academy, which I enrolled in today.
You're enrolled, right?
Yeah, well, I
told
pre-enrolled.
Instagram you were, right, just to ruin all of our credibility up front with them.
No. I wanted to make sure that when I saw that you did that, I appreciate it. I want everyone to know that, I am in the beta version of the Jordan Peterson Academy, which as of today is going to be released in 6 days. So I'm only getting the sneak peeks, but negging your audience for money is definitely one of them. Part 2 is going to be selling you a way to fix your life. So get ready for that one.
Okay. Yeah, let me know if I can fix it just by making my bed or something like that. That would be nice.
Yeah, make your bed, but I will not go so far as to tell you to do your laundry, because that one's a step too far for most Peterson fans, I assume.
No, the stench emanating, it helps with the thinking.
But maybe we should kick it off. Let's talk about something something a little more interesting before we get into Jordan Peterson, who is, of course, very relevant for us to be speaking about. Book of the month. Matt, what are you reading outside of the podcast?
Yeah, so I wanted to... because we have this whole podcast about Slavic literature, I thought, what would be a great segment to do is not talking about Slavic literature. So, in general, I'm trying so hard now that I'm at the stage of my program where I'm not just getting relentlessly assaulted by every book known to man, where I have some time where I can read outside of my program. And that's so nice. And I'm so glad that I'm finally at that point. I cannot even begin to explain. But
it only took you 5 years, so that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it only took me 5 years. Now I'm good. And now people on Reddit can go back to telling me I don't know what I'm talking about on a subject that I've learned for 5 years. Okay. Anyways, so I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? What I should do? I'm going to follow a couple prizes, and I don't know. I just said, okay, today we're gonna start with the Booker Prize. What was the most recent award winner that I hadn't read? And it was the previous year. So I read Prophet Song by Paul Lynch, a book that I struggled so hard to remember the title of, and an author that I struggled even harder to not call David Lynch every time that I think about him. And the only note that I took for this part of the show is that I kept wanting to call him David Lynch, not Paul Lynch. And quite frankly, by the time I was done with the book, I was really just wishing that it was David Lynch that had made something different for me instead.
Yeah, I was gonna say if that's your only note, that's a bad sign for the book itself. Okay, you told me about it a long time ago. I intentionally did not ask you any questions because I wanted to get your opinion on what is Prophet Song. I understand the basics. It's in Ireland at some point on the timeline. Yeah,
and I didn't want to do Ireland bad on the show, but it's not real Ireland. It's a fictional future Ireland, loosely future Ireland. And the book, I won't really, I'm trying not to spoil anything, since it's not like I'm spoiling War and Peace. You should know how that ends probably, but it's a little more recent, so maybe you do want to pick it up and read it. But it loosely follows a mother and her family into this kind of fascist descent of this fictional future Ireland. And the whole sort of gist of the book is you sitting there bang the book on your head saying, why won't you leave? Why won't you leave? And I guess the point is that fascism happens kind of slowly and then all at once. I don't really know because I don't really understand what the heck the takeaway from the book was supposed to be. So, what are you going to do? The setting was bizarre for this book. I just got to say.
Bizarre how?
No reason. Should it? Okay, so one of the things that he does, which I really dislike, is it's kind of like this hodgepodge of current events that he saw, where he was like, okay, here are some people from a really poor country. Oh, what are they doing? They're like rafting away in the middle of war. So let's put these people in Ireland on rafts, even though they're trying to cross a land border. But whatever. It's just like the setting doesn't really work for the events that he kind of chose for a few of them. And I thought it was a little funny, just like, he should just chose not Ireland. Just something that like clearly was Ireland, but wasn't, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But that's a small minor point. The thing that really ground my gears about it, though, was that we had read this, or I had read this right after doing the Life and Fate series. And so we had 7.5 months of this really great nuanced discussion on authoritarianism and fascism and authoritarian ideologies and how they work. And then this book just was really shallow, I thought, in terms of its politics. There was like no discussion at all on the actual like political mechanism or the actual politics itself. It was just like, oh, these people are bad. We're telling you they're bad. You should know they're bad. And that, like, you know, it just wasn't a very interesting enemy, I guess. So I found it to be lackluster.
That's something I don't really like dystopian fiction. I don't know if you necessarily characterize this as
I don't either, really. So that maybe that's it.
Yeah, well, because it seems, frankly, the only, I think, dystopian fiction I've ever liked, there's 2 novels. It's the novel We by Zimyatin. Of course, you got to like it. It's a good book. Go check out the episode. It'll be in the show notes. And then secondarily, it's the novel by Sinclair Lewis, It Can't Happen Here. Oh, it could be by Upton Sinclair. I don't remember. I always get those 2 mixed up. But anyway, the only reason I like those 2 is because I think those 2 are addressing something that's different, because it seems, from my understanding of Prophet Song, it's like, what, you know, I see these tendrils, and what if we look further, and what if we continue down this line? What could happen? And I'm less interested in that than I am in the approach of the other 2 novels I mentioned, which is, I'm worried about this happening like immediately. I'm worried about the immediate ramifications of what we today are doing. It Can't Happen Here, I think, is maybe the strongest dystopian novel, because it also, in a similar way to Life and Fate or just Grossman's work in general, is interested in the mechanics of how might fascism come to America. And his conclusion is basically like, well, you're going to have some very charismatic, generally, figureheads who really whip up the worst sorts of sentiments in people, utilizing whatever they're good at, writing trends. And then that will be cheerfully called in by people who want to do violence against their neighbors because they're different from them in one way or another. And then it goes on and explores further implications. I think, not that I'm the arbiter on this, but that to me has been a more convincing way of analyzing the politics, rather than someone who is maybe just trying to pull together all these disparate things that doesn't feel, that feels more like they're trying to build a narrative based on many trends they're seeing around the world, rather than something more specific. I don't know. I could be wrong in that, but
no, that's kind of my issue. And honestly, like, I listened to his acceptance speech at the Booker Award, and he said like something to the effect of like, oh, this was like the most dangerous book of my career. Like, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something to the effect of like, I was scared to publish this. And I was like, is there something happening in Ireland that I'm not aware of? Maybe. Because I didn't like this book was like kind of a pared down version of things that have already been written, and the fact that it won is kind of, I don't know. I didn't read any of the other ones from that year, so I really can't tell you if it was the best of the selection or not. But my sort of gut reaction is, wow, no, it really wasn't. And I went online and I was just trying to find general sentiment, and so I was just kind of, I look through Reddit. That's my problem. And, people had the same kind of reaction that a few of the judges had, which was like, this was so harrowing. And this was just, what a claustrophobic novel. And I just felt like this sort of pressure as I was reading it. And that's sort of, you can attribute that to his narrative style, but that's also to me sort of part of the problem of the book. But more than that, I couldn't believe that some people and some judges would go on record and say that the ending of Prophet Song was like the most harrowing thing that they had read. And there were some sad scenes in here because it's a novel about war, but like it really wasn't that bad, I gotta be honest. And I think it's probably because directly before this I had read Life and Fate. But as I was reading this, I was like, all right. Not great, but you get that this is the point of the book. That's how it's progressing. it just didn't have the emotional impact on me that I think it did on a lot of other people. So R.I.P. Paul Lynch. I haven't read anything else you've written. I don't know if I will after this one.
Yeah.
If you're a big Prophet Song defender, join our Discord. I want someone to explain why they really like this.
I'm kind of considering picking it up because I'm thinking through my earlier comment more.
It's quick. It's not long.
Okay, how long is it?
I don't know. I read it on my Kobo.
Fair.
So I have no sense. It took me like a few hours.
Okay. It says 320 in Wikipedia, but that could be indicative
I think it was shorter.
Your reading speed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I would like to hear other thoughts on it because I'm thinking through my earlier comment. I'm thinking of other books that I also find convincing and that are dystopian. Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, Sorokin's Day of the Oprichnik. I don't know. I think maybe it is with these novels I like that are exploring dystopian themes. It's more the author looking at their own society and then saying, let's take these negative things I see and extend them out to a more extreme fashion to kind of show you where it could go, or maybe parody this tendency by showing you, hey, it may seem normal, but if you make it like 2 steps more extreme, we kind of reveal how ridiculous this thing is as compared to a trait, as compared to an author, I mean, where they look at bad things that are actively happening elsewhere in the world. And then the conceit of the book being like, wow, isn't it scary, the idea of that happening here? Or is it, maybe you will understand this better if you rephrase this bad thing happening over there. And now it's like, imagine it happening here. Doesn't that make you feel so much more sympathy for those people over there when you could, there's the story of the people over there that's actively happening already. So maybe that's the line of where I'm do or don't like dystopian fiction.
Well, but that's what the book was. That's exactly what it was, and that's what my issue with it is it was like, okay, look at these things that are happening that are bad elsewhere. Now imagine it happens in a white country. Isn't that horrifying? Right. Like, that was kind of the undertone of it for me. And I was like, yeah, it is horrifying, but it's also horrifying because it's happening elsewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. And so it was just kind of like, it was only interested in the very aesthetic veneer of like authoritarianism. It was not interested whatsoever in delving into how it actually happens. And so I don't know if that's like a condemnation of the type of person that sort of identifies with that, but I don't know. I think you could read into that. I don't really think that was the point because, again, like at the end, I just don't get it. I don't understand who this book was written for. I don't understand who it's impacting so significantly. But then again, I'm not a Booker Prize judge. I'm just a guy with a podcast, so I'm probably wrong.
Yeah, there are people who are significantly more literary than us who seem to love it. I don't know. I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I there were, like, in terms of the writing, there were some standout moments that I wanted him to stay in. There were some really great passages on kind of surveillance and how that works, but it was so early in the book. Like, I feel like the good quote unquote literary moments of the writing that I thought was really stand out was like first quarter of the book, and then it becomes like so plot driven that everything else, the style, it just takes a backseat to the plot that he has to jam through in 300 pages. And I'm like, I don't know. Not for me.
Right. Well, getting back to the point you made earlier about trying to examine like the mechanisms here. And if you're looking at, it sounds like you said, the war in Syria, the migrants coming on rafts or refugees coming on rafts to escape that horrible situation. And then you're like, oh, isn't this horrible? And then you just kind of stay in the horribleness of it. I don't think that's a useful way to examine these things. Like, okay, you're there. Let's start talking about the causes, the reasons, all these things. I don't want to tell you how you should write your book, but I don't know. Yeah.
Well, and so that's why I'm thinking that's why I'm feeling like I'm missing something with it. Is like, as you read further into it, I'm like, okay, is it a condemnation of this type of person, like the sort of it can't happen here type of liberal that exists? It could be. I mean, it's certainly there in the book to be read. I think that there's a lot of people online who are like, I hate the protagonist. She's not relatable. I hate men writing women. I hate XYZ. And that's fair if you take it as kind of just face value. This is the novel, but I think you could read into it, and I think it could be a critique or a little bit of a condemnation of that protagonist. I'm not really sure. I kind of agree that the characters were super flat. I could tell you the mom's name. I could not tell you any of her kids. I don't remember. I remember hardly any of the interactions she had with the other people in the novel. Nobody was really stand out. Which is weird because, like I said, with Life and Fate and a lot of things that we've been reading, these are very complex characters that we're talking about, and it just wasn't there.
Mm. Is there anything you felt the book did well, or was it more so you're going through, you're like, I want to like this because everyone else does, but I'm struggling to find that handhold?
Like I said, there were a little bit on his style was interesting at some points. He's sort of like this. There's probably other people to compare it to. I compare it more to like the Cormac McCarthy, no quotation, punctuation. It's just has this kind of stream of consciousness feeling. There's no paragraph breaks. It's very, it's very quick and it moves okay. Some people said they felt like it dragged a little bit in some spots, but it moves itself through pretty quick, which was good because by the end I thought, okay, now I can read something else. But like I said, there were some interesting things that he did with that, but by and large, I thought that style prevented him from really exploring what I wanted him to. And so again, I'm not sure if this is a bad book or if this is just not the book that I wanted it to be. And so maybe that's that. And maybe I would return to it and would like it in the future, but
sure.
I sort of struggle to imagine that situation.
Right. That's an interesting one because I never like to make a criticism on a book of like, it wasn't the book I wanted it to be because it's the book the author made it. I want to, analyze it on that front. But if it didn't succeed on that front either, then that's a tough one.
Well, I'm sorry, but it's like you're approaching a really serious topic that is becoming increasingly important.
Right.
And the fact that you're getting, just destroyed by Vasily Grossman, who was writing in the Soviet Union in the 1960s, and he has more piercing insights into this system.
Right.
I'm sorry, but that's a miss for me. That's just a miss.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think that pairs out with a lot of books written in the West, and that's not true for everyone. There are many authors in this canon, in this context, who can do that well. But reading books about Dostoevsky, the most powerful, most interesting book I ever read about Dostoevsky that was not like an analytical one, just a book that was obsessed with it, is this novel called A Curse Upon Dostoevsky. I think I've mentioned it before, which is written from, it's set in Afghanistan. I think the author is themselves Afghan. I don't know if they were raised or if that's their heritage, but anyway, it's trying to basically have a Raskolnikov type character, but now in post American invasion of Afghanistan, and a society in which is no longer functional because it's been destroyed by war in the way that was before, and trying to deal with many of the themes which Dostoevsky has, which I do think are eternal, but in many ways strike me as more, I don't know, pressing or pertinent in a way that Dostoevsky as like, I don't want to insult anyone who might be listening, but people concerned with Dostoevsky of like someone in a relatively affluent society or background in college not having their way in life. Like I'm not insulting you if that's you. That was me in college, coming from relatively compared to the world standard affluent background. But there's so many of these struggles which just seem so much more interesting than, okay, I want to see myself. Like I don't want to see myself reflected back on me all the time in this novel. I want to see other experiences reflected to me.
Yeah, and I don't really know what was reflected to me in this, because I didn't think it dealt with the politics in a way that was that interesting, and the characters were all right, largely forgettable for me, and so I'm not sure what I'm really left with on this, which is a plot that's essentially a retelling of things that you could turn on the TV and see.
Well. So for the 2023 Matt
Prize,
Prophet Song, not
we present to you.
All right, well that's good. That's maybe pick it up or don't, depending on what you've heard here. Maybe you can argue with Matt in the Discord server. That's up to you.
Yeah, again, I'm not really going to argue with you if you liked it. It's fine. You can still like it. I'm more curious why.
Sure. Oh, well, come explain yourself. Better call to action.
Explain yourself. So, did you do any reading this month?
I have not had any good fiction reading. I have been on a weird kick. I was on vacation 2 weeks ago now, and I was invited by a friend who had suddenly the space available in Maui, And so I was like on the plane ride over, I'm like, perfect. This is a great time. Just finally read Das Kapital. I'm 26 years old. I'm too old to not have read Das Kapital. It's frankly embarrassing that I only have
I'm embarrassed.
Right, secondhand accounts of Marx's arguments. So on the plane ride over, I'm reading
on the plane.
Yeah, on the.
So this took up like 1/4 of your carry-on space.
Well, okay, I in a maybe a Marxian fashion, I downloaded one from sources I cannot name to my Kobo. And so several other books.
The coward's way out, I see.
I should have brought the real one. That would have been better.
Yes, it would have.
So I bring several novels, priming you to read it. I read those. I get to Maui, and I look around, and I'm like, this is. Being in Hawaii, I've only been in Hawaii twice, both times at the invitation of other people. It's made me very uncomfortable both times. And so this time I go to a bookstore, get away from the tourists, and pick up some books on the history of Maui and the Hawaiian Islands. And so then I kind of put the Das Kapital on hold, and I start reading about the history of Hawaii and Maui, and which is I think very interesting. I do want to read that more as sort of like as someone who historically has people growing up in a very white community, and everyone thought I was Hawaiian. Kind of like my siblings in that sense.
So I should laugh. No, it's not funny.
If I had a nickel for every time someone asked me if I was Hawaiian, oh boy, let me tell you. So that was going great until I was at a party the other day, and I got into an argument with someone over the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Very fun guy to be around. Well,
what kind of party was this?
It was a birthday party, but everyone who was there all worked for the California State Senate. So this was actually the kind of argument that's very likely to break out.
That's fair.
And
I needed the full context.
Yeah, I was at a birthday party. I started talking about the atomic bombings in World War II. We're a really fun crowd to be around.
I do think you would, but in the context of this party, I could understand why you would. Even if it wasn't in that context, though, I could see this coming up.
Well, I go to parties that are not about this, not about politics at all, and I'm the first one to bring up Afghanistan.
Uninvited, by the way.
Yeah, I just show up. I see parties, I go.
Oh yeah,
I just have a sense.
He's got to start the argument.
And then I was talking to someone who was a relatively educated person, and they were like, no, it had to happen because it spared us from invading. And I was kind of taken aback because I was like, I thought the historical record was pretty clear that we knew that even at the highest levels of governance, that was not the case. And I was...
You obviously weren't in my international relations program. Oh,
that's good. Well, I'm glad you're just coming from America's capital. That's good. That's good to hear.
Oh yeah, we said not only was it necessary, but we had to do it to show the Soviets what was what.
Well, that's interesting. So that leads into, after that, I was like very disoriented because I thought that was a more general understanding. So I was like, maybe I'm wrong. And so I went and looked around, and it seems like the most authoritative text on it is by this amazingly accomplished historian, Gal Alperovitz. And the title of the book is The Decision to Use the Atomic Bomb in the Architecture of an American Myth, which I am only like 100 pages in out of 650 pages. But I think basically Alperovitz argues that I think my understanding is partially, I think probably your understanding is partially correct too, is that based on, there are gaps, and Alperovitz does not say this is the definitive version, but this is the version that he thinks the evidence supports, that American leadership knew that the nuclear bombing was not necessary. That was the opinion, frankly, of Rear Admiral Leahy. That was the opinion of, I think even, was it Eisenhower? Other important leaders, that was not. And so looking at the records of their meetings, that was true that they kind of seemed to know that there were other routes before the possibility of the atomic bomb was widely known, even in the administration. The surrender was already on the table of talking about how do we get them to surrender. And then Alperovitz basically argues that the message to the Soviets was the overriding reasoning for the bombings. I haven't gotten to the part where where he gets to why civilian cities, why not military targets, why not demonstrations, et cetera, et cetera. But your understanding is not wrong.
Nothing says America like bombing your enemy to scare your ally.
That's geopolitics for you. Anyway, so I'm super fun at parties, and I'm really good at sticking to my plan for what I'm going to
You're going to be really fun when you finish the 550 pages that you have left.
No, even better because I know it will not make a difference. And
yeah,
it doesn't matter. They've already went through 11th grade history. They know the answers.
Maybe you could bring copies of those to dinner parties?
I think I should start that one and Das Kapital. I've noticed that if you say that, people are really interested, and then you're like, all right, well, here's Marx's theory of value. Then their eyes kind of glaze over. Turns out it's like reading Lenin. You everyone tells you that it's this radical text, and then you open it up, and it's like, all right, here's how you organize a newspaper network, and here's why it's very important. Anyhow,
that would be a more exciting topic for him, I think.
Yeah.
there are plenty that are, quite frankly, really much more boring.
Right. It's true. Arguing with Karl Kautsky is among them. Anyway, that's all I had to say on that. Well, I'll let you know. I'll let you know what Alperovitz argues in great detail.
Yeah, please do.
Look forward to that.
I'm dying to know how the 550 pages, how he drags that one out.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if they end up deciding to drop the bomb or not, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, well, I won't spoil it for you.
It is a little harrowing to read the early communications from among the staff who did not know about the nuclear bomb, who were trying to be like, okay, how can we get them to surrender, which was like pretty straightforward. Like, okay, well, we don't remove the emperor as the general consensus, but we think we can make this happen. We're pretty certain we can make the surrender happen. And it's really harrowing to see this version of history where hundreds of thousands of people didn't die needlessly to posture against the Soviets. And all this, I also, sorry, this is a side tangent, but this is something that really kind of pisses me off, that when I have this discussion, that there are many times someone says, well, did you know about the Japanese military? Like, have you ever heard of Unit 731? All this stuff. Like, they were the real villains. They weren't as bad as the Nazis. First of all, yes, the Japanese military was horrible. Would not say as bad as the Nazis, but also I don't think it matters of who's bad, who's worse. Like, the Japanese military committed horrible atrocities. And it's not just, I've read a book on this. I'm Filipino. My grandparents grew up in the occupied Philippines. My bedtime stories when I was young were like what happened to them as children, which were horrible, horrible things. Lots of murder, like lots of torture. I'm fully aware. And it's like, it really pisses me off and it's not always, but usually a white person is like, do you know what the Japanese military did? First of all, yes. Secondarily, I don't think that in any circumstance means it's okay to then go and kill hundreds of thousands of civilians in another context. That is reasoning, which is psychotic to me. And I do not want my background to be used as justification for mass murdering civilians.
Okay, but to be fair, they did think you were Hawaiian.
Yeah, that's true. They were like, you got attacked at Pearl Harbor. You should really understand more than anybody else.
Man,
that's a tangent over. That's all I wanted to say.
No, that's that's fair. That's fair. Well, maybe this. I'm glad you had a nice, light, fun vacation read.
Yeah, I did that, and I cooked a lot of cabbage in the room. And every time I pulled the cabbage out of the fridge, there were like 6 of us in there, and I was the only one who actually cooked. The rest of them were just surviving on beer and sausages. And I'd pull out the cabbage, and there'd be a collective groan, like, Jesus Christ, again with this guy.
Yeah, why were you cooking What was the deal with the cabbage?
I eat a lot of cabbage. It's good for you. Okay. It's healthy. It's pretty easy to cook.
Sure.
Yeah, I just love eating cabbage. Mm-hmm. Look, the Slavs are right about this one. We should all be eating a lot more cabbage. Okay. It's cheap, very filling. Anyhow.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you tortured your comrades in vacation.
They deserved it.
Yeah, probably, but by the sheer amount of cabbage that you ate.
That whole trip was a lot. I lost my glasses day one, and I'm very blind. I met someone who is in optometry school, and she calculated that I can see 16 centimeters out before I lose my vision, which sounds about right.
Cool.
Yeah, we got in the world's worst hot tub. Like, there was 4 of us sitting in there, and this other group came in, and they sat between us. And they got into like, yeah, somehow
that's not right.
Yeah. They somehow they got into talking about homelessness, and they were vehement, and it was very uncomfortable with one woman.
Did you ask them what they thought about the bomb?
No, we did. I should have. That would have been an engaging one. But then one woman started going off on like how homeless people don't even want housing and calling them animals and being like, there's no reason to do anything. And we're all like, holy shit. And, she was like leaning over to me and my girlfriend, like whispering things to us about how homeless people were animals. Like, the other couple that was there was like leaning over to someone else, and we're all like being separated from each other for private commentary. Like, what the hell is this? Yeah, there's that. Another guy.
Did you find like really racist swingers?
I think so.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. There were a lot of other things happened, but yeah, that was weird. Another guy just palmed off a lit joint to someone in the group.
Nice.
It was. There were a lot of things happened. Anyway, bizarre trip.
So the Cabbage wasn't the weirdest of it all.
No, I mean, I think they would say that was the weirdest part of it all, but I would say it didn't even break the top 10.
Okay.
Well, maybe this is a good time to take a quick break from before we get too off topic.
Yeah, I think that this is a great time. We'll be back in just a second.
This episode is brought to you by you, our listeners. You can support independent podcasting by heading to our website, slaviclitpod.com. You'll get access to the notes we used to make this episode, which has a lot of funny links this time because it's going to get real interesting in the second half, with links to... in the script says secondary sources mentioned. I think it's a little strong to call Reddit.
I forgot to update this part.
I love it. Reddit is our secondary source here. Well, I guess Reddit's our primary source, but... depending on what the conversation is, but you'll get links to it.
If you want to support the show but don't want to spend any, or maybe you've already spent all of your hard-earned doubloons on your beta version of Peterson Academy, well, you can still join our email list for free at slaviclitpod.com, or you can leave us a nice review wherever you get your podcast, or you can leave us a mean review if you were seriously considering Peterson Academy.
Well, if you have any questions, comments, or you want to appear on office hours, perhaps to shill for Jordan Peterson Academy, you should drop us a line. You can reach our voicemail at 209-800-3944, or you can email us a voice recording or text question at slaviclitpod@gmail.com. We'll bring your question onto the podcast and do our best to address it.
All right, let's get back to the office.
Okay. We have a couple in our literary beatdown. We had more than we're actually going to discuss here. A lot of these people brought to our attention in Discord, or we discussed with people in Discord.
Our Discord was wild this month.
Yeah.
Wild.
It is so wild that we're not even going to include all of them. Some of them are going to push forward to next month because we got so much to talk about. So if you want to know ahead of time, get in our Discord, look in the Content Farm Discord channel, and that's where there have been some good discussions. Well, they've been good. It's been good talking to people. It's been interesting discussions.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, I know we were going to talk about Anna Karenina. Did you like it?
Did I like the novel Anna Karenina?
Yeah, or her, Anna.
Well, I just kind of had this feeling about it. I had, how you say, maybe that it was disappointing, perhaps.
Okay, go on.
I don't know. Let me hit the show spoiler section on this Reddit post. All right.
Well, it's pretty recent. So it was only published like 200 years ago.
Yeah. So maybe we shouldn't spoil what happens.
Yeah. Thank you, r/classic literature.
Okay. So we got this Reddit post. Anna Karenina ... was disappointing. Do you want to just read the post? It's short.
Oh, yeah. I would love to.
Get your intonation
Anna
right.
was painfully unlikable. I hate her. How could she leave her son behind for a man she barely knew? All they liked were their appearances. God, she literally barely had any conversations. I get it's the whole love at first sight cliche, and etc., etc. But there was barely even any social commentary, and hell, Anna got over it fast, which may be purposely, but still. I am so happy that the main storyline is actually about Levin and Kitty. In bold, in parentheses, those negate each other, but whatever. By the way, I like the symbolism, just not Anna as a character. This has no upvotes.
Well, here's my controversial opinion. This is what Tolstoy meant you to take away from the novel in a certain sense.
Yeah, I think Tolstoy probably hated her as much as this person. Right. Tolstoy, he read this Reddit post and he was like, finally, somebody gets it.
Also, this person had to skim it. What does that mean? Anna got over it fast. I have no idea.
Also, she absolutely gaslight gatekeep girl bosses her way through like the first quarter of the novel, which is what the first quarter is about. Right. What do you mean she doesn't have any conversations? She's like the central character through a lot of it.
Maybe when this person said Anna got over it fast, they mean Anna got run over real fast, but
Who said that? The best comment, not the top comment, the best comment, I couldn't wait for the train. Oh, man.
I guess on one level, yeah, that's what Tolstoy intended. On the other hand, this is such a weird reading of Anna Karenina. It's the whole love at first sight cliche.
It's not really a reading.
I feel like if you pay attention to it at all, maybe this actually made me go back and listen to her old series. Like if you don't get what situation Anna is in at that point, you have to not be paying attention of like why she might be disappointed in her marriage or her life. And also, I think, as I recall correctly, the text specifically says it was not about the appearance, but about something deeper in both of them, some ethereal feeling. I guess you'd call it love at first sight. I don't know, but
it could be. There's so much. I mean, this person, like, I don't know. I come from the a lot of Gary Saul Morson teachings on Anna Karenina, and you know his theory, or I think this is his theory that I'm probably gonna butcher, but throughout the novel she's reading a lot of these. What she's reading on the train are these French novels, this sort of the love at first sight, all of these kind of romance cliches, and this is what she's kind of modeling her life on and modeling her progression. It's what it becomes. There's almost like a blurring between personal and fiction. And it's an interesting way to think about it, and this is why he says it's called Anna Karenina, because it's really she thinks she's the most important, but she's not. And so there's just so much interesting in this novel for this to be your reaction is like, oh, it's awesome, I love it so much, I can never get off of it.
So here's one. There is a comment which defends the novel and defends Anna's actions, and then concludes by saying, "This reminds me of the criticism people have from Nora, from Ibsen's A Doll's House," that's Henrik Ibsen. "People get really up in arms whenever a mother chooses herself over her children, as opposed to the relative apathy fathers receive when they choose to do the same." Great point. Women, especially mothers, aren't given the grace to make mistakes. I don't want to jump on this person, but I think it's very telling to frame Nora's decision as a mistake in that novel. That's neither here nor there. Not novel, in the play.
A Doll's House seems good. What's the synopsis? Google isn't giving me a clear answer. In response, this person says.
Yeah, and then they go on to say, and this is the person who made the original post says,
"I completely understand if someone loves someone over their kid, but she didn't even take another second to think about it. She thought of it once and left. Not true. There's a whole year between the initiation. There's a lot of time between meeting each other and the affair, and a lot of time between the affair and her leaving."
Well, if you hate her, you hate her. What are you gonna do?
IDK, and I may be biased because I have issues with my mom. If you have these particular issues with your mom, maybe you shouldn't read A Doll's House. That's probably not for you.
Yeah, I'm sorry that your mom left to go honeymoon in Italy with her new boyfriend, who's also a very bad painter.
Yeah. Someone else says, "You are wrong you're focusing on the wrong things in reading. You do not read and rate a book based on how likable the characters are to you or the plot. What matters is how well structured and coherent the plot is, the prose being beautiful, characters being real." Yeah, I think that's probably a good piece of advice.
Oh, actually, most of the comments in reply to this were fine and good. I think that's funny.
Yeah,
though.
Yeah.
Also, the amount of people that spell Levin as Lenin in this, there's like multiple. Yes, Tolstoy is Lenin. Okay, nice. Glad we got that cleared up. I have no more follow-up questions.
Well, that's why he and Lenin both wrote What Is to Be Done. Have you ever seen them in the same room?
That's true. I haven't.
Now, speaking of Anna Karenina, maybe you should consider dropping it if you have another book in mind.
I have, I do, but I'm also reading another one that's kind of probably about as important as Anna Karenina, maybe a little more. It's the New Testament, but I'm considering dropping them both to just read George Orwell's 1984. If so, why? I've been reading some of these books here and there, every now and then I think he means I'll skim women by Bukowski, but he says I'll skin women, which is okay. All right, I believe you would, based on the title here. But I don't know. I have this feeling in my stomach that at these times I should be studying, what times? 1984, more in depth, as I didn't years ago when I had the chance, and then subsequently probably never had the chance to. Okay. It feels like the right time, but I wanted some outsider insight on possibly a more logical order, or any reason for why it may not matter, or why it does matter, and that I should order 1984, a book that probably costs like $7. It's probably a bit of a weird question. I ask a lot of weird and stupid shit, but it makes sense to me. So everyone in these comments is dogpiling on this. This is r/literature, by the way. Join it. You won't regret it. There's no literature subreddit that you could regret joining, quite frankly, if this is what you're looking for.
This is my favorite comment from it. Is 3 a lot? Dollars? No. Murders? Yes. We have no idea which of these books are important to you. You have a gut feeling that 1984 is important. Follow it. It's a luxury to identify how you feel and indulge it. Epitome of being alive. Tell you what, why not read all 3 and tell us which one is more important? That's an essay I'd read. It's just that intro.
Yeah. I also like how this person clearly like doesn't know how to order their time based on the comments here, and it's just like life's a little fast paced right now. Like, brother, it's 3 books, and one of them is like how long is 1984? It's not that long. Also, the New Testament isn't that long either.
I would like to know what they mean by New Testament in parentheses JW. That's
Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, that would make. Is that? Do they have?
No, I don't know.
Like, is that a specific translation or?
That's what I thought. No, jw.org. I don't know. I don't know that much about the Jehovah's Witnesses, but my guess is I maybe wouldn't read that one.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't.
I read a more all-encompassing.
Yeah, what translation do they read? The Jehovah's Witness New Testament? That could be it. I don't know.
I have no idea, but when you type in New Testament JW, you just get jw.org, which is only about the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Fascinating.
And I think they would probably drop dead if they witnessed this thread.
Yeah, also, I'd like to go back to your other point of, I should be studying...
Even the Jehovah's Witnesses are like, please don't read our New Testament. Go read 1984, buddy.
I should be studying 1984 more in depth, as it didn't when I had the chance, but it feels like the right time. Is it ever the right time?
How does he think he's going to predict the future?
1984 isn't even predicting the future. It's predicting the past. It's predicting... I won't get too into 1984. We already did a podcast on that.
We already did, yeah.
What a fascinating sense of of perspective on things.
Yeah. I loved it. When I saw this, I knew it was going to be gold.
Just what a bizarre question. If so, why? It takes a couple days.
I wish there was more places online though to learn about literature and to learn about theory and all of these places. I wish there was something coming out in 6 days and 20 hours that would be able to kind of help me with that. Well,
that's funny you bring that up, actually, because there is, from maybe one of the greatest academics we know. So great, in fact, that he has been...
Is he well loved by his other academics?
He is. No, they don't like him because he tells the truth, and they are too afraid to tell the truth.
Okay.
I am, of course, talking about Mr. Jordan Peterson.
Doctor, excuse me.
Mr. Dr. Jordan Peterson, Esquire.
I think he's a doctor. I don't know.
I think so.
Only because they don't revoke doctorates, and quite frankly, they should.
It's like there's this right-wing radio host. I don't know if he's still airing, but he was when I was a kid. Michael Savage, which, first of all, his real name was Michael Weiner. So that's an embarrassing change of name, I'll be honest with you. And he always went by Dr. Michael Savage. And it's true, but he's writing on politics, and his PhD was in herbal medicine, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think at that point you should drop the doctorate if you're trying to... Anyway, neither here nor there. But... So Jordan Peterson is putting out apparently a project which has been in place for some time based on the fact that I'm finding Reddit posts and posts about it from up to 2 years ago, but finally being launched in, as you identified, 6 days, the Peterson Academy, which is intended to... Hold on, let me pull up the website. The reason why we're talking about Peterson Academy, by the way, is not because we are closely following Jordan Peterson's...
it's because you're enrolled.
It's because I'm enrolled.
At this point.
Several days ago... I guess 2 weeks ago, I started getting emails from the Peterson Academy. I have no idea how I got on their form. I don't know if someone signed me up. I don't know if they bought my address from something. I don't know if I, at some point, just thought this would be really funny to sign up for, and then I forgot about it. But
I hope someone signed you up. That's the funnier option to me. Quite frankly, I didn't do it, but I wish I did.
It's probably revenge for when I was in high school and I used to sign up put my friends' emails on extremist websites as a joke. Not like just putting them out there, it's like enrolling them on there. It's probably not helping my case at all. Let me see. So this is the description of Peterson Academy from the email. Only 7 days left to pre-enroll for early access before the price increases. It gives you early access to expert-taught 8-hour courses by professors from Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, and more. The other email also...
I thought professors don't tell the truth.
Right.
What's up, Jordan?
These ones do if they're willing to teach on Peterson Academy.
Well, yeah, they don't. The good thing they don't teach at. They teach at like really anti-establishment institutions like Harvard.
Right.
Good. Yeah,
I also like. In, I think one of the other emails. I don't know where I saw this. Another version of that text where it's like they've got professors from Harvard. Whatever. They also include Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, and McGill. And I don't know. They only did McGill in like one of them. And I think that's so
because
funny.
he's from McGill. His PhD is from McGill. I just looked it up.
Oh, is that's why? That's
yes.
So, I'm sorry, not to disrespect.
He's like, we need a fourth one to round it out. Oh, I got mine from McGill. I'll throw it in there. They won't sue me for that.
No, I'm sorry. I know McGill is a great college in Canada. It's just Harvard, Cambridge, and McGill.
Yeah, it's a great college in Canada. Fine.
So let's see. Pre-enrollment grants early access to Peterson Academy on August 21st, 2024, 3 weeks before the public launch. Your profile will be given an early adopter badge. You will be able to watch courses, 8-episode courses, always 8 episodes, but given by intellectuals on such topics as modern philosophy, intro to Nietzsche, how to philosophize with a hammer, the intelligence, rationality, wisdom, spirituality. I love that title for a class.
I'm sorry, I'm only going to listen to the Nietzsche one if he pronounces it Nietzsche,
Right.
because I don't know why, but I find like a lot of like the right-wing pseudo-intellectuals, they all pronounce it the same way, and I don't really know if it's the right way or the wrong way, but I'm inclined to believe the latter.
There's a trailer. I don't remember if he said Nietzsche or Nietzsche. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick. No, he says Nietzsche.
I will... Okay.
Let's see, a couple other ones. The greatest leaders in history. But also it says heroes underneath that title. I don't know why. And you'll be shocked to find out it's the same 8 people that everyone else always mentions. Napoleon, Churchill, Thatcher, so on. Julius Caesar. You're really... Also, yeah, really, you can tell that this person who did this was English, because really you're going to sneak Thatcher in there? Like, that's...
Also, number 8, Jordan Peterson. Right. I mean, he founded the Academy.
Let's see, there's the Boy Crisis, the history of Western music, which, by the way, the history of Western music is like...
I'd love to see that
I'm so curious, because they're trading it like you can't learn this anywhere else, but like I went to community college and I took a course called the history of music.
Yeah, but it wasn't the history of Western
That's
music.
True, that's right. It basically was.
Think about that.
Okay. So you were given access to an academy, which is just like a university education level. That is, except it costs a lot less. You want to guess how much it costs?
I already looked, so I won't guess.
All right, it costs. Or if you're an early adopter, it's $450 a year. If you are a regular adopter, it's $500 a year, which is a lot for a souped-up version of Masterclass. Actually, souped up is maybe...
that's what I was gonna say. Isn't that more than Masterclass?
Yeah, I think Masterclass is like $100, maybe $200 a year, which is already steep to me.
I don't think you're going to learn anything from Masterclass either, but at least it'll cost you half the amount to make that mistake.
Right? And you'll be learning from, I don't know, Gordon Ramsay or something instead of like Jordan Peterson.
I'd rather get yelled at by Gordon Ramsay for 8 hours than this.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I went through and I watched a bunch of the trailers, and I've got some thoughts on some of these.
Oh, they have trailers for all of them?
Go to the website. Every class that they have on there has a trailer.
I'll believe you.
Yeah, so I had some thoughts on some of the things they had to say. Now, obviously, I haven't seen the whole course, so I can't really say the course, but there is some interesting things in there. Oh, actually, before I get there, it's $500 a year, and I guess that is cheap compared to a school if you don't consider all the other benefits of attending a school, which give you a degree, legitimacy, the possibility of work experience.
Is it accredited?
No, it's absolutely not. Cohort, like other people who know you and will hire you or help you get jobs. And also, yes, it is more expensive than an actual university education, but it's not that much cheaper than a community college. I went to community college before I went to a 4-year, and I went back and I did some calculations, and today the cost per semester is $552 per semester. So granted, that's $500 a year versus $500 a semester, but you're looking at $500 a year for Jordan Peterson Academy, or a little over $1,000 a year for an actual accredited education.
Well, there is some debate going on the r/Jordan Peterson subreddit. Even his own supporters don't think it's worth it. I've seen, and
they were guessing it was going to be like $2,500.
Yeah, somebody says it's not accredited. So like, what, you know, is it worth it? And someone's like, in what context?
Right.
In the context of trying to further yourself and find a long-term career, different than the service industry. This guy says, well, it works out to only about $85 a month, probably worthwhile, especially if you take the money that you normally smoke or drink away to fund it. Nice assumption. You probably also don't make your bed. How about that, stupid Redditor? And then somebody else chimes in and says, well, it's not accredited, so you're better off smoking or drinking.
That's awesome.
Which is... Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably.
But okay, here's the other problem I have with it. So the trailer for the whole academy, Peterson basically is like, "Why are we doing this?" And he says, "Well, I was pushed out, wonder why." And he says, "I found that I could teach people online at very low cost than I could at university." And I thought, well, why not scale that? And here's the other thing, besides the fact that it's not that much cheaper than going to, say, a community college, if assuming you're paying everything, which there's always aid or something. Also, a lot of professors do publish their lectures online. You can get like still in good standing professors who are not.
Bro, if you like Harvard, they have open courses. Yeah. Like if you're really that enamored by the Harvard logo or the Harvard brand, they have it online for free. I mean, it's not a degree, but you can get the same content.
Yeah, this doesn't have a degree either, and you're not paying $500 a year. So there you go.
Yeah.
I was the other day. I was like trying to find some lecture on Cormac McCarthy, and I found several professors who have posted their lectures. In fact, like probably well over a dozen lectures I found online. A lot of them were from one person who was, I guess, a big McCarthy. I don't know if it's a scholar, just really interested and happens to teach, but like it's not that hard to find these things.
It's not the woman from Yale, the one that I said to you.
There is that one, but there's another.
Okay. I thought you were going to say, I found this really great lecture. I was like, I sent that to you.
No, she is in that list, but she's not. There's another one which is called something like Cormac McCarthy, some kind of professor.
She's called Cormac McCarthy. Yeah.
It's like
very knowledgeable.
Right? But yeah, so there's that. And so I watched a bunch of the trailers, and I have thoughts on a couple of them. I didn't watch them all because I don't value my time that much, but I value my time more than it would take to watch all 30 of these trailers. I just picked out a couple. I started off with, I didn't do Nietzsche, which is the one that Peterson is teaching, because I'm not a Nietzsche person. I don't feel qualified to.
Which, his degree in clinical psychology really prepares him to do.
Right.
Okay.
It was just, basically it was all pull quotes that didn't really mean anything, so I didn't have anything to say. Although one thing he says Nietzsche is almost like a motivational speaker, and he means that as a compliment. So I feel like that about tells you everything you need to know.
Okay. The next one, I misheard you completely on this.
What do you think I said?
You said the boy crisis.
Yeah.
I assumed that this was a misremembering of the Boyd incident in New Zealand, which I thought, okay, that's really specific to go in on. I'm curious what he has to say on that. Nope. Doesn't seem like it.
It is not.
You meant like boys.
Yeah. The crisis in boys.
Oh.
And so this one I think identifies a big problem of what I saw in these trailers, in which they say a lot of things which are true, and then but it's true in one of those ways where it's like, I feel like there are many other questions. It's said in such a way that's meant to lead you to a particular conclusion instead of what you should be doing, which is critically analyzing that statement for what are the implications. But
I thought he was teaching me critical thinking.
You really, okay. Yeah. You really get to think critically against, arguing with your liberal cousin at Thanksgiving dinner, I guess. But
okay, yeah, teach me how to do that. How do you do it?
So the boy crisis.
What can we argue about boys?
You can, because this is the opening line from the boy crisis trailer. We have a nation of single moms. Really setting you up for what this is about to be about.
It's my mom's married to my dad, but other than that, okay, yeah.
Okay, so what I mean when I say there's a lot of true statements that go in weird directions. There are pull quotes like, there is a pressure on men to do jobs they don't want to do in order to make money. True.
Okay, you mean like work?
Right.
Yeah, all work.
And then the next one, I think maybe this is the next pull quote, maybe it's one down, but there are women's centers, and then there are men's centers too. Prison.
What?
Yeah. Wait, okay. That's one of those.
Is that a good thing for him or not? I really can't tell.
He also blames school shootings on single parent households in the trailer. It doesn't.
Is his conclusion going to be like, go to prison? It'll do you. Like, what is the conclusion?
I
here?
don't. Well, see, the thing is, it's hard to say because again, I can't evaluate the course. I don't know, right? What their conclusion on those things are going to be. But here, okay. So, and the trailer ends. I'm going to come back to some of these things. The trailer ends on the guy saying, "I could not get hired at any university in the United States. You didn't need to tell me that. I already knew."
Yep.
That's how dangerous talking this way is. But the thing is that even in those pull quotes, you haven't said anything that you wouldn't hear in like a Social 101 class. Like the idea of there are a lot of men in prison, that men don't want to do those jobs. Yeah, that's a major issue such that if you I was taking Paul or Social 101 classes in community college.
And the school to prison pipeline, the prison industrial complex, these are things which you will be hearing, if not every day, at the very least, you'll be talking about it every single week.
That is a major issue. So you absolutely could get hired. In fact, that'd be a very easy thing to do. That'd be a very good topic to cover. And so it's really weird to act like that you can't say that. But I want to go over to Instagram for a second because it elaborates on some of these things. They've got an Instagram post which says, "Why are our boys broken? Here's the truth." And then there's a slideshow. And first of all, it says dad deprived boys. And it's basically like, well, if you don't have a dad, then you're more likely to be a criminal. Secondarily, educational disparities, which is true. And third of all, that's it. It's it's just like,
okay,
the women are getting more bachelor's degrees than men. And here I quote, "This educational gap contributes to a larger social issue. Women graduates find it challenging to find equally educated male partners. This leads to an increase in single motherhood," which for their argument, which is just that single motherhood is an inherently negative thing. That is, I guess that works out. But why are you not interested in examining those educational disparities? Again, going back to maybe these things are true. I don't know. I don't know these stats. I don't know how they're collected. I don't know the methodology. But even if they were true, why is that the question you're asking? Like, why is not the question where, like, the gender gap in education has reversed, the post says. I wonder why it was that way before.
It's because all the men are being funneled into Peterson Academy. They can't get BAs because it's not accredited. They spent all their money on it, and now they have to leave their wives, right, forcing them into a destitute position, being a single mother forever. Jesus. Yeah, so it's like, it's not dangerous. It's not interesting. There's another one called Political Ideologies, which is basically like, look, I'm here to give you definitions of how to understand these things, which also you do get that in university. That is the very basis of political education. But secondarily, it's mostly for half of the trailer pretty anodyne, just being like, let's define these terms. We don't get to the definitions. But then it gets to an interview with the guy doing the thing. I don't remember his name, but then he says, I'm trying to get through and make people think for themselves. If political elites tell us we're a different gender or that, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see where we're coming from here. That seems out of nowhere until you realize that they're really just trying to give you the same, like, kind of vaguely conservative online thought that everyone else is. I'm trying to give you the ability to critically think for yourself. Now, here are some definitions to memorize. There will be a test, and it will count for nothing. Once again, not accredited. Right. I think. I don't know. I didn't look that hard for it.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is. So another poll quote is, and I love this one. Does equality mean equal treatment under the law, or does it mean that we should have equal outcomes? And if we don't get them, should we have affirmative action? And I love that one so much because that's such a common talking point, and it only makes sense if you are a completely credulous rube. Because it's like one of those ones where you're talking in like non-specifics, but in a way that has no actual applicability to real life. Because if you under this philosophical treatment of the law is not how the actual law is demonstrated. Take, for example, I wrote a paper on like the UN. I think it was the human rights agent, like the human rights something or other. But basically, they provide a justification for treating people differently because their belief is there should be equal treatment under the law. But you can't just say everyone has the same rights. If you want everyone to have the same rights to have a real world comparison, a material reality, that means you have to make sure that everyone gets to those rights, in one way or another. Here's a counterfactual. Everyone should have, take this as a law, everyone should have equal access, or everyone should have reasonable access to their city hall to make their concerns known. I think that's a pretty anodyne statement. But then say, like, if your city hall has steps to get in, Well, if you want to ensure equal treatment under the law, then you should put in a ramp or some other way for someone who cannot walk up steps to get in. A button to get in the door. Once they get inside, maybe
Did they try making their bed to see if that would help them walk up the steps?
that could have gotten that could really help here.
Okay.
But once you get inside, hearing assistance, access to speakers in multiple languages. That all means, if your understanding of equal treatment under the law is everyone should have equal, like the ability to reasonably speak to their city their city hall or representatives there or whatever, then yes, you do need to treat people differently. And that's a real, that's how, if you go to your city hall, that's how it's actually designed. That's how these things are actually implemented. This vague question of, should we have equal treatment or equal outcomes, only makes sense if you're an idiot and you don't know anything about how the real world works, because that's not a real distinction.
Oh, he's hitting him with the real world fact.
I know.
Go off.
I don't know. The real world doesn't care about your feelings. This is a more complex topic than someone who is not a lawyer.
The real world doesn't care about your fake degree.
Right, exactly. Exactly. I don't know. It's like that's all this is. It's just it's stuff that's only interesting if you have never actually approached these topics seriously. Like Peterson himself. I used to have people send me Peterson when I was in college and be like, "Isn't this interesting?" Like, you're getting a degree in political science. You should know what he's saying doesn't make any sense. Like, you should know better.
Well, also, I like how he's criticizing the fact that like there's this growing group of men who just are, they're just, can't find a partner, whatever. That seems to be the group that he's attracting. And, I can't speak for women, but I'm about to get married, so I can at least speak for that much. Things like emotional intelligence, empathy, these are good qualities. They're helpful. And you take this course, which is just like, should handicapped people have stairs? Like what? Oh man,
yeah,
it's great.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. I can't wait to enroll. I can't wait to enroll and ruin my future marriage. Yeah. Well, you're enrolled. You have to let me know how it goes. Maybe you can send me they have affiliate links.
Well, I'm super excited to take the class Deconstructing Decolonization with Nigel Bigger, who is a theologian.
Yeah. What? And so what kind? What is his background?
Anglican. He's English.
Oh!
And you may be very surprised that his opinion is that the English Empire conducted itself admirably through the era of colonization.
Honestly, I would be surprised. I really would be.
Yeah, so you've got an apologist for the British Empire talking about why you shouldn't listen to decolonialist scholars. I'm sure you'll all find that very intriguing, interesting, and possibly even what's the word I'm looking for?
Convincing?
Convincing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you started that with him belonging to the Church of England, that really helped. Really helped sell it for me.
All you need to know. Oh, there's also the greatest leaders in history, which again, going back, it's exactly who you'd expect. And secondarily, all I want to say about that is Tolstoy is spinning like a rotisserie chicken in his grave that people still think this way.
Yes. Also, I would not think of these people as the greatest, but I would not. I really think you have to have a very peculiar bias to put Thatcher there. That's just me.
It's like
the other ones. I get that they're like I get that they're there. I don't agree, but I get that they're there. I'm sorry, Eisenhower's above FDR.
Yeah. Eisenhower's on there. Let's see what we got. We've got Pericles.
I mean, for me being a fraternity brother with FDR, I take quite personal offense to that.
And you should attack this man. We got Pericles, we've got Julius Caesar, Napoleon, Horatio Nelson. It's very English to choose Horatio Nelson. Winston Churchill, George C. Marshall, Dwight Eisenhower, Margaret Thatcher. That's it. Half of them are just World War II, which... Also, the opening of this is like a student asking, do you think great leaders live different lives than us? And the professor's like, well, yes, I do, in a way that's like meant to be like an intriguing introduction. But like, what does it matter?
Churchill smoked 40 cigars a day, and you should too.
Winston Churchill smoked 40 cigars a day and drank 15 bottles of whiskey, and that's what allowed him to kill 3 million Indians, and that's the kind of grind you need to be on.
And it doesn't matter how bad of an impact you have. If at one point in time you were effective, that makes you a great leader.
But we can leave FDR.
I mean, as far as presidents go, I can see why you would respect Eisenhower. big cult of World War II in this country, but choosing him as the best president over Abraham Lincoln, over FDR. I mean, we had to change the rules because they kept electing FDR. That doesn't make you an all-timer that you can literally never be like him again. Talk about a boy crisis. No child is going to grow up in America ever again thinking I could be elected president 4 times one day.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, so not a great list.
No.
The obvious issues aside, even the ones they did pick. I'm sorry. Am I missing something on George C. Marshall? Because I have never heard of it a top 10 list. All time? I mean,
like, he's super important. I don't know if I call him an all-time, like, I don't, like, it is, what is the standard for an all-time leader? Like,
he probably made it. He probably made his bet a lot.
Yeah.
he probably made it twice a day.
Dude, he was in the military. He was doing that he was locked and loaded to make his bed. He was a better bed maker than any of us will ever hope to be.
Yeah, that's probably true. Okay, then he can have it. I mean, yeah, like I'm scrolling through his Wikipedia. Yeah, there's a lot of awards. Like, okay, it just, I don't know.
It's just like,
it's a little strange, right? It's like one level beneath everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, that's like one of the questions I have looking back at this. We joked earlier that this is like a heavy like World War II bias because there's so many like Eisenhower and Marshall, very important leaders for their time, of course. But like all-timer, I mean, compared to Genghis Khan, I don't know. Stalin, you may not like whatever you want to say about Stalin and also World War II era roughly, but like he's pretty important for world history.
I don't think Stalin's making the top 10 greatest, though, you know?
Yeah, that's a fair... I mean, but it's like a question of what makes you greatest. Is it like greatest impact on history, absent morality? I would put Stalin on that. Well, maybe I'd put Lenin on that one over Stalin, but that's neither here nor there. I just like what... It opens up so many questions. That's my reaction to this Peterson Academy, which, of course, because I'm enrolled, I'm going to get them answered, and I'll let you all know what I learn.
Let me know how many times you make your bed every day after this.
Oh, sorry. One more. The Art of Storytelling has this Dr. Andy Martin, I don't know, with Greg Hurwitz. And you may recognize Greg Hurwitz if you've been at your local Target recently because Hurwitz pumps out one of those, a billion of these kind of thriller novels. And I love that the thing in that in the trailer, they have Hurwitz being like, this is how I write. And Dr. Andy Martin being like, have you thought about how the story shapes the whole of human imagination? And Hurwitz is like, I don't know. That's a big question. You're like, maybe Shakespeare shapes him. I don't really know if I think of myself like that. It's just such a mismatch between this guy who's like, it seems to be pretty clear at staying in his lane about writing, and then Dr. Andy Martin, who wants to this Jordan Peterson of like, what is this? What does this mean for life? And, thankfully, all these lessons, it's not just interesting knowledge for its own purpose, it's always relevant to your life. And they have a course to tell you how you can change your life based on this. And thank goodness for that.
I'm glad. I'm happy for that. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's great. I told you, we've talked about the old JP on the show many times. Like, you knew it was going to end with some ridiculous grift like this. Here's a one-line sentence that I'm going to spin into 8 full episodes. It could be boiled down into one piece of advice that your so-so relative gives you over a holiday dinner. You didn't need to pay $450 for it. I haven't done it, but you do, Cameron. But aside from that, you have to report back to us.
Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry. They don't have... Before we get to your question of accreditation, I was looking at the FAQs. We were actively pursuing accreditation. However, we are not willing to compromise the technical merits, originality, or quality of our education to meet the requirements to meet the requirements of any ideologically compromised expert, in quotes, body. So no, they are never going to get accreditation. But they will be rolling out the Peterson Academy certification, which will show course grades and completion, offering 1, 2, 3, and 4-year certificates.
Great.
Test taking and certification is entirely optional.
Right, so that's good. That means a lot.
That's awesome.
So don't study because it won't be on the test because you don't need to take it.
Well, once I figure out how to rip these courses for free, we're going to have a field day.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. Maybe this is good. This has been a long one. Maybe this is a good place to wrap up.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say thank you to everybody who filled out our survey that we sent out. We had a lot more people do that this year, which was great. We got a lot of good feedback from everybody. We are going to work on incorporating some of that into our schedule as soon as we, are able. Me and Cameron, to give you the peek behind the curtain, we set up our tentative schedule for all of 2025. So that's pretty cool. We're not going away.
No.
And you're going to see the quality improve once Cameron gets his certificate from Jordan Peterson Academy.
Yeah, I'm going to...
Asterisk, not accredited by the ideological body.
I'm going to smash through with the hammer of Nietzschean ideology.
Yeah.
You better watch out, you modern authors. I'm ready to deconstruct you.
That's right. Yeah.
You modern authors or postmodernists, whatever we hate this week.
Yeah. I can't wait. You're going to bring so much more to the show once you have that background behind you. I have the PhD. You have this sort of thing. It'll be good.
It'll be good to finally be on even footing.
Yeah, just forget your actual degree. Just
throw it in the trash.
Really lean into the teachings.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have a 4-year accreditation from Peterson Academy. My degree means nothing.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I'm going to go back to using it as a mouse pad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
All right. Yeah. Well, before we completely wrap up, what are we tackling in our next episode?
Next week, we're going to be digging on into Andres Sadamora's The Tears and Smiles of Things. We are very fortunate to be joined by both of its translators. If you're planning on reading along with us, be sure to pick up your copy through our affiliate links on our website, slaviclitpod.com. To help keep our show independent and for exclusive access, I didn't update this part either. You want the notes containing all the research that went into this episode? It was months of me on Reddit. Well, you can still have it. Go on over, slaviclitpod.com. They can all be yours, provided I've remembered to put them up. Before we let you go, we want to extend a sincere thank you to all of our current supporters.
Direball, Cynthia, Seamus, Camille, Emma, Lauren, Erica, Michelle, Juliana, Diane, Oleg, John, Timex, Melissa, Baron, Aldo, Ben, Gabe, George, Claire, Amy, Allie, Soraya, Jackson, Molly, Emma, Mike, Marianne, Mickey, Eric, Reagan, Mike, Peter, Eric, Ben, Claire, Jeff, Inez, Mai, Robert, Joseph, Daniel, Lou, Nina, Gary, Janice, Mary, Anne, Isaac, Emily, Amanda, Caitlin, Yitza, Irini, and Pack Rob.
And just know that your money is going to JP Academy.
Thank you.
The music used in this episode was Staroye Kino by Peremotka. You can find more of their stuff on Bandcamp or Spotify. The links and spelling are in the show notes.
You'll hear from us much more educated again soon.